This is Dr. Stephen Cangiano. I am the president and co-founder of RDT.Media and Events with its online companions, relationship-development.com and humanity-upgrade.com. We are continuing our conversation with Dr. Rick Hanson, New York Times best-selling author of multiple books. We just finished an amazing discussion of mindfulness and meditation. What is the difference between mindfulness and meditation? And he gave you some practical tips on how to get started with that today. Now we're going to discuss what I think is one of the most important topics in psychology, psychiatry, and even something called evolutionary biology. We have an innate negativity bias, meaning we always tend to look at the negative. We tend to scan for survival and safety threats. Rick Hanson is the leading world expert on this topic, and we're going to start that discussion right now. There's another thing you talk about, and again, I hope I get the terminology correct, is our evolutionary glitch, our Stone Age brain and the negativity bias, which is that perpetuated by this reptilian, mammalian, neocortex, monkey brain, as you say. Get into, because I think that's. I was hearing your brain is designed for survival, not happiness.
Right.
And yeah, maybe you can comment on that for me.
Oh, this is one of the most useful, practical, in the trenches result of 20 years of neuroscience. It's this idea that Mother Nature has evolved in us, thanks Mom, a negativity bias that makes it like Velcro for bad, but Teflon for good. And that's because in the wild, think about Jurassic Park or Game of Thrones, these really intense, hard environments, okay? In those environments, our ancestors needed to get carrots, like food, and they needed to avoid sticks, like predators or aggression inside their band or between bands. Both are important, carrots and sticks. But if you don't get a carrot today, you'll have a chance at one tomorrow. If you fail to avoid that stick today, no more carrots forever. So sticks, in terms of raw survival, passing on genes that pass on genes that pass on genes. As you know, that's the engine of biological evolution. Sticks have more urgency and impact. So we are designed. Maybe I'll just go through it real fast and people can recognize themselves doing it every day. The brain is designed to do 5 things all the time. Scan for bad news, over-focus upon it compared to good news, like someone smiled at you or you finished something, you got something done. Scan for bad news, over-focus on it, overreact to it, fast-track it into memory, once burned, twice shy, and then sensitize the brain through the stress hormone cortisol to upsetting, irritating, worrying experiences, so the brain becomes even more reactive to them over time in a vicious cycle. That's Mother Nature's plan. Now, it was really useful back in the Serengeti Plains when most people were dead by their 40th birthday, if not sooner. The short-term gain of the negativity bias was worth the long-term cost to physical health, relationships, and well-being. But today, for most people, the negativity bias, it adds a lot of excess burden. It makes people more upset than they really need to be. It shadows their days. It drags down mood over time. It makes people more anxious and prickly over time. It also creates lots of issues in relationships. We won't go into politics right now, but you can imagine how the negativity bias gets working in groups in ways that are vicious cycles. You know, Group A gets scared, and then by Group B, and then Group A acts in ways that are threatening to Group B. So then Group B reacts in ways that are even more threatening for Group A, and round and round and round it goes. So what to do about it? In certain situations, like you're working in a war zone, the negativity bias is pretty useful. Or maybe you're growing up in what feels like a war zone. You're alcoholic parents or you're living in an impoverished neighborhood. It's really tough. There's a place for it occasionally. You know, I'm, in my own kind of do-gooder way, a pretty tough guy. And I've learned that life can be really hard, and some days you got to really bring it. Okay, maybe sometimes it's useful, but most of the time, the negativity bias is not your friend. Day by day, it creates this invisible cost that gradually builds up a stress load and an emotional unhappiness load that gradually wears down. And one of the most important things for me is to don't marinate in the negative. Just step back from it mindfully, because then you stop reinforcing it. That's one of the main benefits of mindfulness, because when we're witnessing our anger or our hurt or our physical pain, we're not reinforcing it in the brain. We're detached from it. We're having it. We're open to it. We're not trying to suppress it, but we're not taking it into ourselves. It's just passing through awareness then. And then the other big takeaway, besides not marinating in the negative, the other big takeaway is to look for authentic, beneficial experiences to rest your mind upon. And as you rest your mind upon them, it takes its shape from them. If you rest your mind repeatedly every day, like right now, I feel your kindness and your respect, and that you're a top quality kind of person, which adds value to it. I feel that. I'm not flattering you. I feel it. I'm recognizing the fact we're not best friends. We don't know each other super well. And still, it's not less than what it is. Right here is an opportunity to see something good and then help it become a good experience, rather than what most people do. They see it, but they don't feel anything. They don't see it in the first place. And then if they do see it, they don't feel anything. And then if they feel something, they don't take it into themselves. They don't help it sink in. And that goes to finish, I guess, my little rant here, the ways that those of us in management and self-help and teaching and healthcare practice and therapy and coaching and all the rest of it, we don't often enough recognize that knowing does not equal feeling. And feeling does not equal learning or growing from it. And our opportunity is to help people see the good that is true, including in their own good heart. Second, feel something good as a result. And then third, the opportunity is, once that good feeling is present, help people internalize it. That's where the great opportunity is, I think.
Beautiful. Yeah, yes. And I love your analogies there with the how do we instill or install these positive traits? And that I've been around this industry for a long time, and I don't know if there's anybody better at taking that message home and actually delivering on the goods, especially, as I said, after taking the class. I've actually been through the first 3 weeks of your class already and looking forward to the next 3. And so why is it so, it's counterintuitive. So I just read a book by a gentleman, Steven Pinker, and he talks about what's called Enlightenment Now. Mm-hmm. And he really goes into how these times we're in are fundamentally different. You know, the 3 major causes of death to human beings, famine, war, and plague, are virtually all but eliminated. And yet, he talks about how it's 9-to-1 positive to negative in the news. 9 times as many negative stories as there is one. He also, I think I heard you speak about this, and Dr. Boyatzis from Case Western talks about how in a marriage you need a healthy marriage has 5-to-1 positive to negative. How do we make people, how do we upgrade people to have them really have a much better relationship with the positive to the negative? Not eliminate the negative, because as you say, it's important, but I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but we as a society, as a world, do not have a good relationship with the positive to the negative.
It's a really fantastic question. And I'm probably, it's a weird thing to say, the world's leading expert on the deliberate internalization of beneficial experiences, All right. I've just really been fascinated
Let,
by
let,
it.
let me let me break in. That's not an exaggeration. I mean, I know because it is not an exaggeration. It's like studies your work. I'm sorry to interrupt, but please go
Oh no,
ahead.
I appreciate that. My own kind of family culture runs through North Dakota, kind of a Midwestern thing, and there's a certain just wanting to not overclaim anything or et cetera. So, but my point really is about that. Even though I've certainly been deeply engaged with this, including at the neurological level, it remains mysterious to me why there is such a strong cultural force to not focus on factually based positive information and positive experiences. Like, why would people swerve away from that? I don't get it. And why has there not been more clarity about the importance of, and then just that how to do it, of internalizing these beneficial experiences, which is crazy because, of course, we would want our children, we'd want our friends, we want our workers, our employees, our clients, our patients. We want people to internalize and grow good things inside of any kind, right? Impulse control, commitment to social justice, happiness, inner peace, whatever. And yet, we've almost completely ignored the how of self-help, the actual how that change sticks to us, right? So, in terms of the culture, I think that we do live in curious times, and one thing I would say is that the little lizard, mouse, and monkey are very, very vulnerable to fear mongering. We're very, very vulnerable to fear. And you can just see the ways in which it all scales, whether it's a playground in preschool with a bunch of 4-year-olds, or a cafeteria in high school, or a family, or then you start building out organization, company, country. You've just seen the ways over history that people bully others through using fear. And I think what I'm trying to say here is incredibly evident throughout history. And I'm not taking a political stand to point this out, that we are very vulnerable to manipulations based on fear. And so you have people who then use those manipulations very cleverly, whether it's to persuade people to upgrade the car they're buying, or to stay silent on a schoolyard, or give the bully the basketball, or vote for one person or another. And I think that for me, one of the deep purposes of that meditation I described, which I summarize as peace, contentment, love, because that's where you're marinating, a deep sense of, in 3 oversimplified umbrella terms, you're marinating in a sense of peacefulness in terms of safety, contentment in terms of satisfaction, love in terms of connection. As people repeatedly internalize that, they're harder to manipulate with fear and greed and us against them,
Right.
made up conflicts. And one of the results of getting stronger inside in the way I'm describing is that you get better at dealing with real hard things, with real bad things. I don't believe in positive thinking at all. The last thing in the world I want to do is look out at the world through rose-colored glasses. I'm a longtime rock climber. I'm really good at assessing risk within a millimeter of how close I can get to that edge, but without going over the edge. It's really important to be able to do. And for me, there's something fundamentally deeply tough-minded about the approach I'm describing with you, and which characterizes my work and my online programs, as you know. This tough-minded clarity about the challenges we face outside, the challenge of the negativity bias inside, and the importance, therefore, of growing strengths to deal with these challenges over time. So it's a very tough, it's not some kind of new age, fuzzy, touchy-feely thing that motivates me. It's like a guy in the trenches who realizes, wow, we've got to grow stuff inside or get them in our inner backpack. And then that's what we draw on down the long road of life.
This is Dr. Stephen Cangiano. Thank you for joining me. We just finished an amazing conversation from the world's leading authority on negativity, bias, and how to overcome it, Dr. Rick Hanson. We're going to continue this conversation in the next video with what we call Humanity Upgrade. What that is a discussion on how we take all the knowledge we've learned and apply it to a dramatically, unbelievably, rapidly changing world. Join us.